Okay, this is Mr. Christmas, the Marquee Deluxe, and right now it's not moving, but everything is working. But initially, when this was given to me as a problem, nothing worked, and the reason was the power supply wasn't working. So the way you test the power supply is you get a meter, set it up for DC volts, and if you look on the power supply, it shows you that the center is positive. So put it back in, put the positive terminal inside where positive is, put this on the side terminal, and you'll see you're getting 9 volts. That indicates your power supply is working. This power supply had to be replaced since it wasn't working. That was about $25, and there's a link to it on the Mr. Christmas website. So the first thing I wanted to point out on this one, as opposed to other models, the bottom does come off. There's a series of screws all the way around the bottom. The bottom comes off, but that does not solve the problem of why it's not going around. So there's no point in taking the bottom off. But in this case, on this particular unit, this knob does not do anything, so don't try to take this off. There's a series of screws all the way around the edge that have to be taken out. There's about 15 of them. You take all those screws out, and then this will be removed. And you got to be careful doing this because the cord is short. And you get this off, and then you'll see this plate. And on some models, this is underneath, but on this model, it's up above. And these wires come up through the center, and you have to cut them or desolder these units here. I chose to cut the wires and disconnected them. Then you have to take this nut off, which came off pretty easily in this case, but you also have to get this washer off, and this washer was very difficult to get off. I think it was super glued on, but I got that off. And then came the real problem. You would think this would just lift off now, but it wouldn't, and no matter how much I pried and shook it, it just would not come off. So I ended up taking an X-Acto knife, I heated it up, and I tried to melt away whatever glue was all around this. And once I succeeded in that, I was able to get this to pull off like this, and then it's free, and you can see if your drive belt has fallen off or broken. And if your motor, well, I could tell the motor was working earlier when it was hooked up. You could see the gears moving. But in this case, the drive gear, this is the main drive gear, was not driving this drive down here. When it's down in there, this gear engages this gear down here. But this gear, even though it spins when you hook it up, it doesn't have enough torque because you can see it kind of moves on its own, yet nothing's moving. It's because that gear is not it's not tight on the shaft. So you either have to figure out a way to tighten this, and what I did is took all these screws off, took the drive out, and then pushed this drive back onto its shaft. If that doesn't work for you, or there's some other problem with this drive, maybe a cracked gear, you can replace this whole gear housing. And again, the part is, there's a link at the Mr. Christmas website. There's a link to parts, and you can buy this whole housing for about $27, which is probably what I'm going to do. And then you just put this back through. You have to set the wires down through the center and get this back on, and it's only one way it's going to go on, because the shaft is not round. But you get this back on, you put this back together, you screw it all back together, and that's basically how you deal with Mr. Christmas Deluxe Marquee.